Hello, today I thought I'd do a flick through of another of my art books, and I've picked out Just Add Watercolour by Helen Birch. I've got a number of her little books, and they're all compilations from various artists, so I've picked out the watercolour one today. And then I'll pick out a picture from it that I fancy painting. So it's all contemporary art, and it's roughly arranged into different types of watercolour. So traditional watercolour, gouache, and digital, mixed media, water-based media, non-paper media. And at the end there is a little bit about watercolour fundamentals. I really love at the beginning of the books, there's this visual index of what's on each page. They just look so good together. And then each double spread will pick out a particular characteristic and show you that in the painting. And on each page there's a tip as well for what you can take from the painting. I kind of fancy having a go at these kind of gradation paintings, just in a single pigment or a single paint. So that much of the book so far has been on traditional watercolour, and now we're switching over to gouache. And now we're looking at digital. And now mixed media, but including watercolour. And then we're on to other water-based media. So this one says, the painting used a mixture of undiluted tube watercolour paint with slow drying acrylic medium. I bought this book secondhand, which is what I usually try and do, and a few of the pages are creased. That doesn't really bother me at all. And then there's a few pages on watercolour fundamentals. So that's definitely my kind of book, where you've got an awful lot of visual content and it's quite contemporary. After one of my other book flick-throughs, somebody said that there was no point in anyone buying the book now that I'd shown it. But I think my intention is the opposite. I'm going to be showing some of my absolute favourite books that I recommend as being well worth a purchase or getting hold of from the library. And the books that I'm showing, I think, have quite a large amount of content in them and are worth spending a good amount of time on. There were a couple of paintings that I was drawn to. One's this really subtle one, and I'm just going to have a quick go at something like this now. I'm using an Etchr everyday sketchbook that's cold pressed watercolour paper. And the paint I'd like to try it with is a Gallo's Notturno. And just to mention, the original artist is Madara Lakjanovića. I mean, this is a fairly simple technique, but it gives you some good guidance. I just want to make sure that I've mixed up enough paint in each kind of thickness. Right, I'll start off quite runny, so I guess I'm going to do the whole thing in the runniest paint. Oh, and I'm using a Princeton Neptune square wash 3/4 of an inch brush. I've chosen 100% cotton watercolour paper for this because it's less likely to get blooms and that kind of texture going on. I was a bit daft because I touched the paper before it had dried properly and left fingerprints, and then I brushed over it, so I've got like a paler area now, but I'll carry on with it anyway. I'm pretty heavy-handed when I paint, so I've probably gone in with too much pigment too early. So in the book it says the progressively darker tones were achieved by lessening the amount of water added to the pigment, and so I am adding a little bit of paint each time. But actually, even if you kept the same concentration of pigment to water, then this would still work because you'd have a build-up of pigment from each additional layer. So I guess you don't need to add more paint for each layer if you don't want to. The original painting has 7 layers in it, and I'm aiming for the same, although, as I said, mine's probably a bit darker. I've been using my heat tool to dry off the layers because I had it out anyway for doing some alcohol ink paintings earlier today. In fact, I'll show you those at the end. But it's buckled the paper a bit, though I'll spray the back of the page lightly with water when I'm ready to put the book away, and it'll probably dry flat again. Right, the last layer. I want the last layer to be quite wet because Notturno is a gorgeous granulating paint, I think it'd be nice if we actually get some of the granulation in the 4 layer, so it's like the details in the rocks. I think that's a really enjoyable little exercise to do, actually. And here's Madara Lukjanovich's original. And just quickly, I'll show you the alcohol ink paintings, which I did this morning. If you're interested, I'll link to a video I made quite a while back on the process. I frame them up in plain white mounts and frames. Usually I do these seascapey ones. So I'll have a bit of kind of beach colour, shore colour down at the bottom. And we have some beautiful green areas of water in our cove, so I always try and put a bit of green in and capture that. I also put some metallic medium in as well. But I just love the details that you can get, and they just turn out different every single time. And then I always do a couple of smaller ones to go in these little frames. And today, for fun, I just felt like doing some with other colours as well. These might get chopped down into the fronts of cards, but I'm not sure. This one I picked out the colours from the hill in our village. So you've got the grass in the fields, and then you've got the sea in the distance, and then you've got all the different purpley flowers that are around at the moment. A couple of card fronts. Well, I'll cut them down into card fronts. A little bit big. So far these have each had 3 coats of protective varnish, and then they'll have 3 coats of UV protectant spray because the alcohol inks aren't light fast. So the preparation of them takes longer than the actual painting. So I hope you enjoyed seeing another of my favourite books and a couple of other things. Thanks ever so much for joining me. Bye!